the Alpha King exiled the pregnant Luna until the moon goddess came back to restore justice. In the great hall, the air was heavy with whispers, tension thick as the evening mist that rolled in from the cliffs. Selene, the Luna, stood before the throne, her heart beating like a wild drum in her chest. Her stomach swelled with the secret she carried, life itself, growing quietly inside her. But tonight, the kingdom would see her not as a mother or a woman of honor, but as a threat. King Kale, the Alpha King, sat upon his throne, tall and imposing, yet shadows darkened his face. His sharp eyes, like storm clouds before rain, locked on Selene. There was once a softness there, a warmth that only she had been allowed to touch, but it had faded under the weight of prophecy and fear. "You know why you are here, Selene," Kale said, his voice deep and steady yet laced with tension. "The elders have spoken. Your child, the child you carry, is part of an ancient prophecy, one that could bring ruin to this kingdom." Selene's chest tightened. She had expected anger, perhaps accusations, but not this cold calculation. She took a step forward, her cloak brushing the floor, silver threads catching the torchlight. "I am no threat, Kale," she whispered. "I carry life, not ruin. I only wish to serve you, to serve the kingdom." Kale's jaw tightened. He leaned forward, his hands gripping the arms of the throne as if to anchor himself against the storm raging inside him. "I cannot take that chance. The prophecy, it is clear. You must leave." Selene's hands trembled. Leave. Exile. Her mind raced, struggling to hold onto reason. She had wandered the forests of her childhood, learned the songs of the wind and the silver light of the moon, but never had she imagined a night like this. A night where the love she once shared with Kale would be drowned in fear and politics. "Kale, please," she pleaded, her voice stronger now, though a tremor betrayed her. "You do not need to do this. We can find another way. I can leave the capital, yes, but banish me." "I carry your child." The court was silent. Courtiers, advisors, and soldiers waited, their faces unreadable, but their eyes reflected the tension. Kale's face was stern, a mask of authority he wore even as his heart twisted inside him. "I am the Alpha King," Kale said, his voice almost hollow. "My duty is to the kingdom above all else, even above my heart." Selene felt the sting of those words like ice against her skin. His heart, could he have once loved her? Could he have ever truly cared, or had it all been another kind of loyalty, to power, to throne, to destiny? She would never know now. Before she could speak, Kale raised a hand. The guard stepped forward. Selene's eyes filled with tears she could not let fall, her pride holding firm even as her world crumbled. The whispers of the court grew louder, voices filled with speculation, fear, and curiosity. She could hear them saying she had brought this on herself, that she was a dangerous choice, a harbinger of doom. Selene turned away from the throne, her cloak swirling around her like a silver river. Every step she took felt heavier than the last, her body carrying more than just herself. She carried the weight of the future. Outside, the cold wind of the cliffs whipped around her, tangling her hair and biting at her cheeks, but she walked on, unbroken. The gates of the palace closed behind her with a finality that echoed in her chest. She was alone, exiled, yet still alive. For now. The whispering woods stretched before her like a dark sea. Trees arched high above, their branches twisted like ancient hands, and silver light from the moon danced on the leaves. Every step into the forest was a step away from the life she had known, from Kale, from the palace, and from everything that had once been safe. Selene's fingers brushed against the rough bark of the trees. She could feel the pulse of the forest, alive with magic she had always known in stories but never truly experienced. Now it wrapped around her like a cloak of comfort, whispering secrets in languages older than any human king or queen. She found a small clearing, where the moonlight poured down like a spotlight. She sank to her knees, her hands over her belly, feeling the tiny life inside her. Her child's heartbeat was strong, and it gave her a courage she had never felt before. The world might have turned against her, but life itself had not abandoned her. Tears slid down her cheeks, unbidden, and she allowed herself to feel the sorrow, the fear, and the pain. It was all part of her now, the shadow and the silver, the loss and the hope. A soft rustle in the leaves made her sit upright. Her breath caught. From the shadows a figure emerged, small, luminous, almost ethereal. A creature of the forest, she realized, perhaps a spirit sent by the moon goddess herself. Its eyes glowed softly, and its voice was like the echo of a gentle stream. "You are not alone," it said. "The moon sees all. Your pain, your courage, your childhood, they are known to us." Seleni's heart fluttered. She had heard stories of the moon goddess, of her returning light in times of darkness, but she had never believed it would touch her. And yet here it was, a sign that she was not forsaken. "I am alone," she whispered, more to herself than to the creature. "The Alpha King, he cast me out." The spirit tilted its head. "Exile is not the end. The path of the Luna is never easy. You carry not just life, but power. That power is tied to the destiny of this kingdom, and to the moon herself." Seleni's eyes widened. Power? Destiny. She had been born Luna, yes, but she had always thought it was a title, a name, not a force. And yet, standing in the moonlight, feeling the forest pulse around her, she realized it was more than she had imagined. "Can I survive?" she asked softly. Will Kale?" Her voice broke and she could not finish. The spirit moved closer, its light wrapping around her like a warm embrace. "You will endure, Luna. You will grow stronger than you know, and perhaps he will see what he has lost. Perhaps he will return." Selene wanted to believe. She wanted to believe in Kale, in the child, in herself. But a deep ache in her chest told her that the road ahead would not be easy. The kingdom would not wait for her to heal. Enemies would rise, shadows would linger, and her exile was only the first trial. That night she made a small camp beneath the ancient oaks, the moon watching over her as if it were a guardian. She traced patterns on the earth with her fingers, whispers of old magic she remembered from her childhood. The forest answered, soft winds stirring, and she felt a faint spark of hope. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of silver light and shadowed thrones. In her visions, Kale's face appeared, not cold but torn, his eyes heavy with regret. She reached out to him, but he was always just beyond reach. And always, a soft voice like a song carried by the wind murmured, "Your time is not yet over, Luna. The moon watches and justice will return." Days passed. Selene learned the forest, moved quietly among the shadows, and felt the presence of unseen beings guiding her. Birds with silver feathers circled overhead, streams of water whispered secrets, and the wind carried voices that seemed almost human in their clarity. She spoke little, listening, learning, and growing into a version of herself she had never imagined, stronger, wiser, more connected to the world in ways that frightened and excited her. Yet even in these moments of quiet, her thoughts returned to Kale. Why had he exiled her? Why had he not trusted her? And yet, beneath her pain, a part of her still longed for him, for the man she had once loved. It was this longing that fueled both her courage and her sorrow. One evening, as the moon rose full and bright, Selene walked to the edge of a cliff that overlooked the kingdom. The lights of the city twinkled below like fireflies, distant and unreachable. The wind whipped her hair around her face, and she felt the tug of destiny on her soul. A silver glow appeared behind her. The same spirit, or perhaps another, stood there, more luminous than before. Its eyes reflected the moon. "The moon goddess returns," it said softly. "Her justice is coming. But beware, Luna, the path will not be gentle. Choices must be made and hearts will be tested." Selene felt a shiver run through her. She pressed her hand to her stomach, feeling the steady rhythm of her child. "I am ready," she whispered, though part of her heart still feared. "I will endure. I will survive." The spirit nodded, fading into the moonlight, leaving her alone with the wind, the cliffs, and the vast, unknown journey ahead. High above, the moon shone brighter than ever, spilling silver over her hair and cloak. And for the first time since her exile, Selene felt a flicker of hope. Somewhere in the shadowed halls of the Alpha King's fortress, Kale might yet realize the truth. The Luna he had cast out was not broken, and the child she carried was a promise of light in a kingdom of shadows. And in that silver glow, a whisper came from the sky, soft as a secret but strong as destiny. Your exile ends, but the storm is only beginning. King Kale stood alone in his throne room, the flickering torchlight casting long shadows across the walls. The crown on his head felt heavier than ever, pressing down not just on his skull but on his heart. Every corner of the room seemed to whisper Selene's name, each echo a reminder of the Luna he had exiled. The court, silent and still, could not see the storm raging inside him. Kale's hands clenched into fists on the arms of his throne. He had ruled the kingdom with iron and fire, but never had he felt so powerless. The prophecy haunted him like a shadow that would not lift, yet the exile had not eased his fear. It had only left a hollow ache where his love for Selene had once lived. He rose from his throne and walked to the tall windows, looking out over the kingdom bathed in silver moonlight. The city lights twinkled far below, distant and cold. Soldiers patrolled the walls, advisors whispered about loyalty and strategy, but Kale could only see her, Selene. "Why did I let fear rule me?" he muttered almost to himself. "Why did I push her away when I should have protected her?" A soft knock on the door startled him. His captain of the guard, a man as loyal as stone, stepped inside. "Your Majesty," the captain said, bowing slightly. "There are rumors in the city. The people speak of the Luna's exile. Some question your decision." Kale's jaw tightened. "Let them speak," he replied, his voice cold. "They do not understand the danger she carries. They do not understand the prophecy." Yet even as he spoke, a small, unsteady part of him wished he could reach out to Selene to undo what he had done. But pride and fear anchored him in place, making it impossible to act. Meanwhile, in the depths of the Whispering Woods, Selene had begun to feel a change within herself. The forest had become a teacher, a guardian, and a friend. Each night, the moonlight guided her, illuminating paths hidden to ordinary eyes. She could hear the whispers of the trees, feel the pulse of the earth beneath her feet, and sense the presence of unseen beings watching over her. Her body had grown stronger, her mind sharper, and her connection to the child she carried had deepened. The child's movements were no longer timid. They were a quiet, powerful presence inside her, like a heartbeat of destiny. One evening, Selene stood by a silver stream, her reflection rippling in the water. She traced her hand across her belly, feeling the life within her move with a purpose she did not yet understand. "You are growing strong," a voice said, soft and musical, carried on the wind. Selene turned, her eyes widening. A figure emerged from the shadows, a spirit of the forest, luminous and gentle, its eyes like pools of moonlight. "I have come to guide you," the spirit continued. "The moon goddess watches over you. She knows the path ahead is not easy, but she will help you prepare." Selene felt a shiver of anticipation and fear. "Prepare for what?" she asked softly. "For the return of justice," the spirit replied. "For the time when you will face the Alpha King again. You must be ready, Luna, not just for yourself, but for the child and for the kingdom." Selene nodded, determination settling over her like armor. She would endure exile, fear, and the shadows that crept around her. She would grow stronger. And when the time came, she would confront Kale, not as the woman who had been cast out, but as the Luna, mother and protector of the future. Back in the palace, Kale could not escape thoughts of Selene. He wandered the halls, sleepless and restless, haunted by memories of her laughter, the way her hair caught the moonlight, the warmth of her hand in his. He had exiled her to protect the kingdom, but now he questioned whether he had only protected himself, from love, from truth, from the vulnerability that came with admitting his heart's weakness. He sought counsel from the elders, but their advice only deepened his torment. "She is dangerous," one said, voice low, eyes narrow. "Her child could change the balance of power. You did right to exile her." Kale's hand shook as he held the parchment in front of him. "Right," he whispered. "And what of the heart, the loyalty, the love that once bound us? Are these nothing in the eyes of the kingdom?" He slammed the parchment down, his temper flaring, yet a quiet ache persisted. The court saw his strength, his authority, but none could see the man trapped inside. The man who feared loss more than death, who longed for a woman he could not have. In the forest, Seleni's days passed in learning and reflection. The spirits taught her how to listen to the wind, how to read the patterns of the moon, and how to sense the threads of destiny woven around her and her child. She practiced quietly, her movements precise, her mind open to the whispers of the forest. One morning she discovered a glade bathed in silver light, where the moon shone even though the sun had risen. Here, the magic of the forest felt strongest. Selene closed her eyes and placed her hands on the earth, feeling the pulse of life beneath her. The forest responded, the leaves rustling in harmony with her heartbeat. "You are ready," a voice said, gentle but firm. The spirit appeared beside her, its eyes shining. Not yet complete, but ready to face the shadows that await. Selene opened her eyes, determination burning in her chest. "I will not run from the past," she said. "I will face Kale, I will face the kingdom, and I will protect my child no matter the cost." The spirit nodded, fading into the light. "The moon goddess watches, Luna. When the time comes, she will guide you to justice. But remember, even the strongest hearts are tested." Kale, unable to bear the weight of inaction, decided to leave the fortress in secret. Clad in a dark cloak, he slipped past the guards and into the forest beyond the city walls. The wind carried a familiar scent, a hint of silver and earth, and his heart caught. He knew he was close. "Selene," he whispered into the night, voice trembling. "If you are alive, if you still walk this earth, forgive me." The forest seemed to answer with silence, yet Kale felt the pull of her presence, a heartbeat in the shadows, a warmth in the cold. He knew he could not turn back. Pride had exiled her, fear had driven him, but love still guided his steps. He followed the faint traces of her passage, careful, alert. Every rustle of leaves, every distant cry of an owl made his heart beat faster. And then, in a clearing bathed in moonlight, he saw her. Selene stood tall, her cloak swirling around her like silver mist, her eyes reflecting the moon. She did not turn to greet him, but the power she radiated was undeniable. Kale felt both awe and fear. The woman he had exiled was no longer the same Selene he had loved. She was stronger, luminous, unyielding. "Selene," he said softly, his voice barely carrying over the wind. She did not answer at once. Her eyes met his, cool and distant, yet not without recognition. "Kale," she said finally. Her voice was calm, but a current of anger and hurt ran beneath it. "Why are you here?" I had to see you," Kale admitted, stepping forward. "I could not stay away. I was wrong." Selene studied him, her gaze piercing. "Wrong? You exiled me while I carried your child. Do you think one word can undo that?" Kale's heart tightened. He reached out, but she did not move closer. "I know, and I cannot undo what I have done, but I am here now. I will protect you. I will protect our child." Selene's lips pressed into a thin line. "Actions speak louder than words, Kale. You will need to prove your loyalty, your courage, your heart, not just to me, but to the kingdom, and to the destiny we cannot escape." Kale swallowed hard. The weight of her words pressed against him, heavier than any crown, heavier than any battle he had faced. He nodded. "I understand. I will not fail you again." The wind rose, carrying whispers from the trees, from the streams, from the moon itself. Selene felt the power of the forest and the presence of the moon goddess encircle her. She did not trust Kale fully, not yet, but she allowed herself a spark of hope. Perhaps the storm of exile was ending, and a new path, fraught with danger and destiny, was beginning. Above, the moon shone brighter, spilling silver over both of them. Shadows danced at the edges of the clearing, hints of trials and enemies yet unseen. The future was uncertain, dangerous, and vast. But for the first time since her exile, Selene felt the stirrings of hope. And Kale, standing in the moonlight, knew that the kingdom, the prophecy, and the child depended not on fear or pride, but on the courage of their hearts. The moon hung high, larger and brighter than anyone in the kingdom had seen in decades. Its silver light spilled over forests, rivers, and stone towers, turning the world into a landscape of shadows and shimmering silver. Selene stood at the edge of the whispering woods, her cloak heavy with dew, her eyes reflecting the luminous glow of the celestial orb above. Tonight the moon goddess would return. Selene could feel it, a presence stirring in the very air, as if the world itself held its breath. Her heart pounded, not with fear but with purpose. She had trained, learned, and grown stronger. She had listened to the whispers of the forest, felt the rhythm of the earth, and understood, for the first time, that the power she carried was tied not just to herself, but to the fate of the kingdom and the child within her. Kale had insisted on accompanying her to the clearing where the goddess's light would descend. He walked beside her, cautious, silent, yet determined. Every step reminded him of the exile he had enforced. Every glance of Selene's reminded him of the trust he had broken. "You have changed," he said quietly, breaking the stillness. His voice carried more awe than affection, yet it trembled with sincerity. Selene did not answer immediately. She did not trust words anymore. She trusted the forest, the moon, and the life growing within her. Finally she spoke. "We all change, Kale. Some change because we must, others because we survive. But survival is not enough. We must be ready for what is coming." Kale swallowed hard. He had come here seeking redemption, yet he understood it would not be given freely. He would need to prove himself through courage and humility, not through words alone. The clearing opened before them like a stage, bathed entirely in silver light. At its center, a figure appeared, radiant and impossible, like moonlight made flesh. The moon goddess had returned. Her presence was overwhelming, serene yet commanding, and the air itself seemed to hum with her power. "Selene," the goddess's voice echoed across the clearing, gentle yet resonant. "Child of prophecy, bearer of life and hope, you have endured exile, hardship, and shadow. You have grown in strength and wisdom, but the path is not yet complete. Kale, Alpha King, you too are called. Your heart has faltered, your pride has ruled, but the hour of judgment is here." Kale stepped forward, bowing his head, humbled by the luminous presence. I have failed, my goddess," he said. "I exiled Selene, I acted in fear, and I brought pain to the kingdom and to my own heart. Please show me the way to make right what I have done." The moon goddess's eyes, silver as the full moon above, regarded him with quiet patience. "Redemption is not given, Kale. It is earned. You must act with courage, wisdom, and humility. Only then can justice be restored, and only then can the prophecy unfold without ruin." Selene stepped beside him, placing her hand lightly on his arm. "We face this together," she said. "For the child, for the kingdom, for us. But know this, I will not allow fear to guide our choices. Only truth and courage." Kale nodded, the weight of her words settling upon him. He realized that this was not merely a test of power or magic, but of character, of heart, and of love. He had exiled her once out of fear. Now he had the chance to make a choice guided by something stronger than fear, guided by honor, courage, and love. The moon goddess lifted her arms, and the silver light deepened, swirling around them like mist on the wind. Images appeared in the glow, visions of the kingdom, of shadowed threats, of choices made and consequences borne. Selene saw herself walking paths of fire and darkness, guiding the child through trials yet unseen. Kale saw the faces of those he had wronged, the lives he had shaped through fear, and the possibility of redemption through courage. "You both carry the fate of the kingdom," the goddess said, "but the child you protect is more than an heir. They are a beacon, a promise of balance between shadow and light. The choices you make now will echo through generations. Seleni's fingers tightened around her cloak. She felt the child stir, a tiny heartbeat echoing in time with her own, as if affirming the path ahead. "We are ready," she whispered, though her heart quivered with anticipation. "We will not fail." Kale's voice was firm, though still tinged with vulnerability. "I will do whatever is required. I will stand beside her, protect her, and earn the trust I lost." The goddess inclined her head. "Then the trial begins." The trial was not of combat nor of brute strength. It was a test of heart, judgment, and sacrifice. The moon goddess summoned visions of fear, doubt, and temptation, each designed to reveal their true selves. Selene saw herself abandoned once more, Kale failing to reach her. Kale saw the kingdom plunged into chaos if he could not act with courage. Shadows coalesced at the edges of the clearing, dark and whispering, representing the lingering fears and enemies of the kingdom. Kale stepped forward instinctively, ready to fight, but the goddess's voice held him back. "Strength alone cannot pass this trial," she said. "You must act with clarity of heart, trust one another, and trust the life you protect." Selene raised her hands, drawing silver light from the moon, weaving it into a protective aura. "Kale," she said, "we must move together. The shadows feed on doubt. Only together can we face them." Kale nodded, and together they stepped forward. The shadows surged, testing their courage, whispering lies, sowing doubt. Kale saw visions of Selene rejecting him, of the child in danger, of the kingdom falling into chaos. He felt fear clawing at his chest, but Selene's hand on his arm anchored him. "Focus," she said softly. "Remember why we are here. Remember what we protect." With her guidance, Kale found strength not in his sword but in his heart. He faced each shadow with honesty, with courage, and with love. Each step forward weakened the darkness, until the shadows dissolved into silver mist, carried away by the wind of the moon goddess's power. Selene felt the pulse of the forest, the magic of the moon, and the life within her. She knew they had passed the first stage of the trial, but the goddess's voice reminded them that true judgment was yet to come. Then came the final test, a choice. The moon goddess appeared before them in full radiance, her gaze both gentle and piercing. "One must make a sacrifice," she said. "One must place the good of the kingdom above all personal desire. Only then can the curse of the prophecy be lifted." Kale's heart leapt with fear. He thought of Selene, of the child, of everything he had risked by exile and by fear. How could he choose when any choice might bring harm to the one he loved? Selene stepped forward, her eyes calm but her mind racing. "Kale," she said, "this is our destiny. We cannot run. But we can face it together. The child is our bond, our strength. We must be brave." The goddess's light intensified and the trial reached its peak. Each felt the weight of the choice pressing upon them, heavy as the moon above. Kale's hand found Selene's, and for a moment all fear fell away. They were not alone. They were bound by love, courage, and destiny. "I will stand," Kale whispered. "Whatever the sacrifice, I will face it. Not alone, Selene. With you." Selene's eyes shimmered. "Together, Kale. Whatever comes, we face it together." In that moment, the silver light enveloped them, lifting them beyond fear, doubt, and shadow. They felt the power of the moon goddess flow through them, binding their hearts, their courage, and their purpose. The shadows dissolved, the whispers ceased, and the kingdom below, though unaware, shifted toward hope. When the light faded, Selene and Kale stood in the clearing, the moon goddess's presence lingering like a soft breeze. She spoke one final time. "Justice is restored, but the path ahead remains. You have faced fear, doubt, and darkness, and you have chosen love, courage, and wisdom. The child will live, the kingdom will endure, and balance will be returned. But remember, life is never free of shadow. Always guard the heart and always protect the light." Selene felt tears slip down her cheeks, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and hope. She looked at Kale, and for the first time since exile, she saw not the man who had feared, but the man who could love with courage, who could face truth without pride, who could stand beside her as partner and protector. Kale reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We have survived," he said softly, "and we will face whatever comes together." Selene nodded, resting her hand on her belly. The child stirred, as if affirming their bond, their courage, and their future. The moonlight bathed them in silver, the forest hummed with magic, and the first true sense of peace they had known in months settled over them. But beyond the trees in the distance, shadows still lingered. The kingdom waited, and destiny had more trials yet to unfold. The moon goddess had returned justice, yet the story of love, courage, and fate was far from over. The kingdom lay quiet under the silver glow of the full moon, a light that felt both gentle and commanding. The castle, once cold and filled with whispers of fear, now seemed to hold a fragile hope. Yet outside, the winds carried unease, a reminder that shadows never fully vanish. They wait patient for moments of weakness. Selene stood at the edge of the whispering woods, her hand resting on her swollen belly. Each day, the child within her stirred with increasing strength, a quiet but undeniable presence that reminded her of the stakes they faced. The moon goddess's trial had ended, justice had been restored, and yet the final chapter of their journey was yet to be written. Kale approached, his cloak brushing against the grass, eyes fixed on Selene. He had returned to the castle with her after the trial, determined to repair both the kingdom and the fractured trust between them. His steps were careful, as if the ground itself reminded him that every choice could alter destiny. "You look stronger than ever," Kale said softly, though his voice held awe rather than flattery. Selene turned to him, her eyes reflecting the silver light. "I had no choice but to grow, Kale. Exile taught me that. And now, we face the final moments together." Kale swallowed hard, his own heart heavy with both fear and hope. The child would arrive soon, and with it, the responsibilities, joys, and dangers that came with destiny. He had once exiled Selene out of fear. Now he would protect her and the child with every fiber of his being. The palace had changed since Selene's return. The courtiers whispered less of politics and more of hope, sensing that the Alpha King and Luna had returned not only to each other, but to the kingdom's heart. Soldiers and advisors who had once feared the exiled Luna now regarded her with reverence. Selene walked through the halls, her presence calm yet commanding, a living symbol of resilience and hope. Kale followed her, silent, watching as the people of the kingdom greeted her with respect and awe. Every glance reminded him of the mistakes he had made. Every whispered word reminded him that trust, once broken, must be earned. "Do you think the kingdom will forgive us?" Kale asked quietly as they passed a torchlit hallway. Selene's hand brushed his, a small, grounding touch. "They will, if we remain honest and brave. They will see that our strength lies not in fear or power, but in unity. And we have something even more powerful than unity, love." Kale nodded, a smile touching his lips for the first time in weeks. The weight on his shoulders felt lighter now, not because the past had vanished, but because the future had hope. The day of the child's birth arrived under a sky painted with silver clouds. The moon goddess's light poured through the palace windows, bathing the chamber in an otherworldly glow. Selene lay in a simple yet elegant room, surrounded by the calm presence of spirits sent by the goddess, and Kale by her side, holding her hand with quiet reverence. "You are ready," Selene whispered, her voice soft but steady. The trial had strengthened her beyond doubt, and now the final test, the creation of new life, reminded her of the stakes she had endured. Kale's fingers tightened around hers. "I will be here," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Every moment. You and the child are my life now." The room pulsed with quiet energy, a rhythm in tune with the child's heartbeat. Selene's breaths came in measured waves, and Kale stayed close, whispering words of courage, of love, of faith. Outside, the palace seemed to hold its breath, as if the kingdom itself waited for the promise that this birth represented. When the child finally arrived, The world seemed to pause. A soft cry, gentle yet strong, filled the chamber. Silver light shimmered around the newborn, as if the moon goddess herself had blessed the child with a touch of the divine. Selene held the infant close, tears streaming down her face. Kale knelt beside her, his own eyes glistening with awe and gratitude. "She is perfect," Selene whispered, "our daughter a gift of hope." Kale's lips brushed Selene's forehead, a quiet vow. "She is more than hope, she is the future, and together we will protect her." The spirits in the room bowed in silent reverence, their light flickering like stars in a gentle breeze. The moon goddess's presence lingered, soft and approving, as if to confirm that destiny had been honored and that justice, love, and courage had triumphed over fear and exile. Days passed, and the kingdom adjusted to the new reality. Kale, once feared as a stern and distant ruler, now moved among his people with humility and wisdom. Selene, radiant with strength and serenity, became the heart of the palace and the kingdom. Their child grew quickly, a living reminder of the choices they had made and the courage they had shown. Yet, even in these moments of peace, Kale and Selene knew that vigilance was necessary. Shadows lingered at the edges of the kingdom, old enemies who had not yet been confronted. The moon goddess's light provided guidance, but it was their courage, love, and wisdom that would protect the future. One evening, as the silver moon rose high above, Kale and Selene walked together along the castle walls. Their child slept safely in the chamber behind them, and for the first time the world felt at peace, fragile perhaps, but alive. "You know," Kale said softly, "I thought I had lost you forever. I thought fear had won. But now I see that courage and love are stronger than prophecy, stronger than fear." Selene smiled, her hand resting lightly on his. "We are stronger together. And we have learned that trust, once broken, can be rebuilt with patience, honesty, and courage. The kingdom will endure because we endure. And our child, she will carry the light forward." Kale's gaze swept over the castle, the forests, and the distant mountains bathed in silver light. "Then we will protect it," he said, "all of it, together." In the weeks that followed, the palace grew vibrant with life once more. Selene guided the people with wisdom, her presence calm yet unyielding. Kale ruled with humility and strength, learning from past mistakes and honoring the bond of love and trust he had rebuilt. Together, they led the kingdom into an era of peace, though always mindful of the shadows that lingered beyond the silver light. The moon goddess appeared occasionally, her presence a soft silver glow, guiding and reminding them of the responsibility that came with power. Selene's connection to the divine deepened, and she used it not to dominate but to nurture, heal, and protect. Kale followed her guidance, learning that true strength came not from fear or control, but from love and courage. Years passed, and the child grew, radiant, wise, and strong, a living symbol of unity between the kingdom, the forest, and the silver moon. Selene and Kale watched over her, teaching her courage, compassion, and justice. They shared quiet moments under the moonlight, hands intertwined, hearts bound by the trials they had endured. One night, standing on the castle walls, Selene held her daughter in her arms, the moonlight bathing them in silver. Kale stood beside her, his eyes reflecting the pride, love, and gratitude he felt for the woman and child who had changed his life forever. "The future is ours to protect," Selene whispered, her voice soft and calm. Kale nodded, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. "And we will. Always." Above them, the moon shone brighter than ever, a silver sentinel over a kingdom now healed, a love now stronger, and a destiny finally embraced. Shadows still lingered at the edges of the world, as they always would, but Kale and Selene had learned that courage, wisdom, and love could overcome even the darkest night. And in the quiet of that silver-lit night, with the child asleep in her arms and the kingdom safe for now, Selene and Kale finally allowed themselves to feel the fullness of hope, the promise of redemption, and the strength of a love that had endured exile, trials, and prophecy.